Welcome everybody to Global Sports Formula One for the Shanghai surprise, and it was full of surprises. And we all know that Verstappen's going to come first. But there were some surprising things that happened this weekend, especially with Alonso, who ended up coming in. Was it sixth or seventh? He came
Seventh.
seventh. Yeah, he came behind Lando Norris. He came behind Perez. He came behind Russell. He came behind Verstappen, of course.
Yeah.
And who else was
Sainz
he?
and Leclerc.
Yeah, but he did very well at the beginning of the race. Did you see he warmed up his tires? So one thing I want people to realize is that Alonso really wanted to win this race. He warmed up his tires and immediately came into second, almost came first, and drove aggressively. Then during the race, eventually he started to drop back a little bit. He was the only one out there on I think he was out there on mediums and everybody else was on hard. And then
Yeah.
and then he went to soft when they had a race, race. Yeah. And that was a risky thing, but he was going for everything. But then he had to stop again, came down into 10th, but still managed to fight back to 7th. So I'm going to give him very close to being drive of the day, but we'll still give it to Verstappen because Verstappen was excellent. No mistakes. What are your thoughts on Bjorn?
Yeah, it clearly shows Alonso really was determined to get a good result from the race, knowing that the Aston Martin car has the potential to score big in the race.
Yeah.
I think he just got it wrong with strategy a bit.
Yeah.
They would quite a lot, and Alonso had a three pit stop race, while every other driver on the Gran Prix had two pit stop. I think they were hoping that the soft tires were going to last into the end of the race, but
you took a gamble.
Yeah, they took a gamble, but that track wears out the tires a lot. I was listening to
because of the curves, because the corners are very long.
Yeah, I was listening to Alex album after the race, and he was complaining bitterly about after 3 laps, you just
I saw Albon. He said, I'm trying to be diplomatic, but these tires are no good. And that's a message to the tire makers, but they do that on purpose to make the race interesting, I think. And for me, Alonso knew what he was doing, and he knew it was a long shot, but he was just trying to test it out. And before the season is over, he very well, Aston Martin may be number 3 or 4 for cars with the way Alonso's driving and pushing the car. The only thing is that Piastri was a little bit disappointing, and Piastri looked Piastri is with McLaren. It was with McLaren, right? So I'm thinking about Lance Stroll. So I made a mistake, but Piastri looked disappointed though, because I think he's getting tired of. I know Piastri he doesn't have problems with his teammate Norris, but I think he doesn't feel happy about where he finished, especially where the car has made improvements. What are your thoughts on the improvements of McLaren?
Yeah, massive improvement. Norris finishing P2 is a superb result for McLaren. McLaren showing that yes, they are here in race pace and they can compete in various circuits in the Grand Prix. Many of us did not give the McLaren team a second position finishing our projections. I think we put them in the top 3, top 4.
I think I said third or so. Because I thought
they are performed.
Go ahead.
They are performed our projections, but it clearly shows you that McLaren is way ahead of Mercedes. It clearly shows you that McLaren is way ahead of Aston Martin. Where McLaren is in the circuit is they are on par with Ferrari and basically competing neck and neck with Ferrari as the second best team on the Grand Prix.
And this was something that I said a couple of weeks ago, which is that McLaren is doing the most work. They're working with their car, making slow improvements. They still don't have as slightly the pace that Ferrari has, but they have a better altogether setup and a better altogether with everything. And also Ferrari, very bad starts from both of them. What do you think about that?
I think Ferrari needs to. I think this is just what we see from Ferrari throughout this season. It feels more like the drivers are competing and fighting each other. They're fighting every other.
Because I think Leclerc wants to make sure he beats because he's been upstanded by Sainz. But
So each of them wants to outperform the other, and Leclerc is kind of upping his game, knowing that yes, he decided to stick with me, and I have to prove to the world Ferrari chose me, and Sainz not outscoring him in every race this season.
I think Leclerc needs to do better in qualifying. He needs to do better in qualifying because he's a good racer. I'm not a good racer, but he has a good altogether racecraft. But he needs to focus on his qualifying. Alonso, man, unbelievable. So what was I going to say? Hamilton. Okay, so I'm still saying that Hamilton right now, I'm not seeing anybody with the passion that Alonso has. And I think that him staying with Aston Martin, he knows that now he has to push this car, and he has 2 years. Now, we all know that Hamilton can race. He's great. If you give him a good car, or if you put him in pole position, he'll drive hard. He drove hard in the sprint race, but he tends to get dejected in other ways, because I saw at one point he was trying to pass Ocon, and he was on medium tires, Ocon was on hard, and he couldn't pass Ocon, and it just looks like he's giving up. And the commentator says something, which is that at this point, it's not that Mercedes is a car that you can't read or understand. He's just not accepting feedback from it anymore, and he's given up. And my only concern is that if he goes to Ferrari, if he meets some challenges there, will he give up again? Because he has a history of doing this, of getting frustrated very easily. What are your thoughts, Beauty? And I'm not challenging him as a driver. Him and Alonso are at the same level, but I think the difference between him and Alonso is driving for his life now. Like you said, he wanted to try to beat Aston Martin and maybe even McLaren. That's what Alonso's thinking. So he's pushing hard. He knows he can't beat it, but I think he's developing the habit, because I think his car is going to be better in the next 2 years. And in the next 2 years, he could be coming third, second, maybe even first. But, it's difficult to say. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think for Lewis, fantastic race from P16.
Yeah, he came up 9 places.
Started,
yeah.
Yeah, he came up 9 places and finished P9. Like we projected during our pre-match race predictions that Lewis would fall around the 9th and 8th bracket, and we got that spot on. Kudos to the guys for that. I think it just clearly shows that we even understand the data, we understand what the sport is all about, and showing that Lewis could have that potential to fight back. Yes, we saw some beautiful overtaking during the race from Hamilton, overtaking the guys below him and climbing up the pack. But I think, yes, for Lewis, I think for Mercedes now, I think his heart is no more in Mercedes. Having been there for 7, 8 years, 8 seasons. I think he's just done mentally being with Mercedes, and he's looking forward to his career and seeing what Ferrari can offer. I know Ferrari is one of the greatest teams in Formula One, having won most World Championship and most Drivers' Championship. So definitely, Ferrari is not a team that you expect to struggle in most era in the sport. They are a very dominant team in the sport, and I don't think there will be a Lewis and Ferrari post 2026 Formula One season.
You don't think that post 26, what happens again? You don't think that?
I don't think Ferrari will have any issue. I think they'll be right up there.
Oh yeah, but I think Ferrari's issues go as far back as Vettel. When Vettel was winning, then all of a sudden they dropped. I think the problem with Ferrari is, I don't know if they have a great team principle or anything. They seem disorganized, because even the past 2 years or 3 years, they let Red Bull beat them when at times they were even a little bit faster than Red Bull, and Red Bull was beating them because of strategy. But Red Bull is getting better. But it doesn't look like Ferrari has made improvements in the last 3 years. And I remember 2 or 3 years ago, they were making problems with pit stops. Like today, Red Bull had 2 pit stops that were 2 seconds. 2 seconds with So I think it's a team thing. And this goes back to our boy Horner. Horner, say what you want to say about him. Horner and Helmut Marko and all those guys, and Adrian Newey. These guys are, whether they like each other or not, they're very strict and they have a tight team. Then they have a very strict driver, Verstappen, who's no nonsense. So my thing is that I think the problem with Ferrari is the culture there. And I just think that if Hamilton comes there needs to be some strong leadership there to push, because it's very clear that Hamilton can challenge for a title. He can even win. But at the same time, you've got guys like Alonso, who's driving very passionately. At this point, the only difference between Alonso, Hamilton, and Verstappen for me is that maybe Verstappen is more singularly focused. But those guys are just as good as he is. They may even be a little bit better. But everything is going perfectly for Red Bull. And Verstappen is a team player. And he does, like we said, he doesn't have a life outside of, Hamilton has other things. But it's clear Hamilton is talented. It's just that he's disinterested. So the only thing I'm worried about is his attitude, because he has a history of giving up too soon, but at the same time, he's a fighter too, like the way he fought. But I want to say, did you notice the way he was having some problems passing Ocon at first? What was the problem with that? Because he should have been able to pass him when he had softer tires. Yeah. Did you see that part? I think it was.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of issues with the brakes, the settings of the car. I think Luis a bit complained about that before the race day. Qualifying, that I had to change a couple of settings of the car. I think that kind of affected race pace. But I think it's clear that the Mercedes overtaking is quite difficult for the car on track.
Yeah.
Without DRS. And with DRS, I think overtaking is quite simple and faster and easier for the vehicle. I think what Mercedes just need to do is understand what Aston Martin is doing and kind of replicate it, because
they need to. Yeah, they need to.
They need to do a lot of. I don't know how Aston Martin, the people they provide engine for vehicles, is way better than their own car. It's like this saying,
I don't know what's going on. Wherever they,
it's really, I know Toto. If you look at a conventional Toto Wolff, is not out there again complaining about very issue. He knows that the factory as a whole has a lot of work to do with regards to Mercedes.
And I also think that moving to this hybrid, Mercedes may be already working on that design already. I mean, the Mercedes team, not just the engine, the Mercedes team is already focusing on that. And Russell will have the car he needs, but Russell is going to have to step up if he wants to become a champion, because even if they give him the right car, he's going to have to step. But I'm not going to, Russell, what I like about him is his attitude, but I don't know if he has enough skill. Maybe he needs to put more time in the simulator or something. These guys need to take the simulator serious. You can talk a little bit about that, about how Verstappen, he does very well on the game. He's one of the top in the world, and he puts a lot of time in the simulator. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, exactly. I think it's just about consistency. You see Max consistently giving you, maybe if he does the same race 50 times, the chance of having an error can be 2 or 3 out of 50.
I hate to go off track, but you know who's also like that, even more meticulous? That striker for Barcelona, Lewandowski. They said he goes to bed at 9 every night. Make sure he eats the same thing. He does the same thing day in, day out. And that's kind of how Verstappen is also. So and that's why. People were saying I was disrespecting Verstappen when I said he needs his father there, he needs his team. I think it's Helmut, that's his mentor. But I'm like, no, he's a ritualistic person, and that's how he focused. So he's not going to leave Red Bull unless they have a really big scandal. It's very clear he's going to stay with Red Bull and probably win two more. So Hamilton, I think, has an outside chance of winning. I think Alonso has more outside. But poetically, I would like to see Alonso or Hamilton, even though I'm not a Hamilton fan. I always say, because I was an Alonso fan long ago, and Hamilton beat Alonso head to head when they were teammates. We have to do a show on that. Hamilton, when he first came out, was unbelievable. Very aggressive, one of the greatest racers we've ever seen. But I think as he's gotten older, one of the things he didn't do was he wasn't consistent. He didn't put a lot of work. And I think Hamilton has a way of alienating people in the garage. So I think he's been sabotaged time and time again throughout his career, because the first thing Hamilton says when he loses it's the end. He would blame, when he was in his 20s, he would blame the team. And I think the team said, okay, we'll show you. You understand what I mean? But Hamilton is he's the most talented driver to come out in the last 20 years. Then Alonso. I'm not sure if both of those guys are at the same level as Schumacher and Senna on another level. But so we're going to close out early today. I think Hülkenberg didn't do too bad. He was fighting a little bit in the race. Did you notice Hülkenberg?
Yeah, he was, and he actually had a little bit of contact in the race. And I think Lance Stroll, that guy just keeps giving us excuse to get keep blaming him in terms of performance. Look at that incident he did, crashing behind.
That was flagrant.
Safety car. I don't know. He just keeps.
And the steward didn't say anything. The stewards didn't say anything.
I think they gave him a penalty. They gave him a 10-second penalty.
But to be honest with you, I think it was more clumsiness than aggression. What do you think?
For crying out loud! Look at what Alonso is doing in the race, and
because you know what Alonso was doing. Alonso was driving all out. And no crashes, no nothing. Driving all out. And I have to give credit to Alonso. He pushed himself fully. He may be 42 years old in age, but he's not 42 biologically or psychologically.
Alonso, like Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri had Alonso as a teammate. You know how good those guys
will beat them. He'll beat them.
No, Alonso, they will learn from him and improve their driving.
Maybe that's what they need to do. That's what Rosberg did with Schumacher. Schumacher came back to Mercedes, but it was just to help Nico Rosberg. He came back. And also, very funny, Schumacher blocked Alonso so that Vettel could win last race of the year, Vettel's third title. He said, I have to do it for my German. But Schumacher was with Ferrari. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they learned, Ferrari, they learned it from Schumacher. So he was a very great teacher. Yeah. And I think this is what needs to happen. And I do think that Lance Stroll will still, I think he's whether it's that he's young or whatever, I think there's a lot that he will learn from Alonso. Like, that's why they gave him the upgrades. He's going to learn a lot. And I'm rooting for him. I don't want people to talk bad about him. I know, but Alonso's making him look bad, but you're looking bad on someone who beat Schumacher back in the day, 20 years ago.
I'll talk about it, but he does not impress me. He's not convincing me.
Yeah, him and Piastri, both of them. Piastri should not be coming, 8th or 9th? Yeah.
Yeah, but for Piastri, you can understand a little bit in terms of race pace and race performance, and knowing that he's still a rookie.
Oh, he's a rookie. How many years has he been around now? Is this his second year or third year?
Yeah, this is the second year in Formula One. So you haven't given Piastri a break. And Piastri has also surprised us and given us some out-of-the-box performances, finishing in the top 3 in a couple of races. But
I'm being too hard on him. Yeah. But I enjoyed this weekend. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was quite interesting race weekend. Like you said, it was a very good race. Aside Max just doing its own thing up front, but I think behind I think the overtaking and the shuffling around in the middle part of the race.
Yeah, so it was a great race. I enjoyed it. And one thing I've noticed, I like Formula One starting on Thursday when you watch the pre-race, then you watch the practice. It's like an escape from this world. There's a lot of problems in this world. But to me, I even prefer Formula One to football, even though football is the #1 sport in the world. I love Formula One, the ritual, the history and everything. So what are your thoughts on that? I know, what would you choose between Formula One and football? We all know football is the world's greatest sport, but there's something I like about Formula One. It's like my favorite child.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you see, most of the time now, I won't come and do more Formula One.
Yeah, which is fine. But anytime you want to jump in a football, you're ready. Let me know. Okay.
Yeah, but one thing I would just love for Formula One, I would love to see where one person is not dominating. I want to see real race. I want to see everybody fighting for first position, which is what we always see one person tend to dominate the top position. But if it's a bit competitive, it becomes more interesting.
So let's look at the difference now. People need to realize that Verstappen is driving perfectly, and the Red Bull car is good, but it's not head. He only won by 11 seconds. I said only. We're used to seeing him win by 40, 42. So what I'm saying is that McLaren,
I think he pitted for the third time again during the race. That was like the second.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is that McLaren is getting better this year already. And my prediction is, of course, Red Bull will win and Verstappen will win. But by the summer, I promise you that I think Ferrari and McLaren will be closing the gap on. And what we need to look at now for the rest of this season is the battle for constructors between Ferrari, McLaren, and maybe even Aston Martin. So that's what we need to focus. But I think that by next year, Red Bull will still be ahead, but the gap will be slowly closing. Then when we have the transition to the hybrid, it'll still close. So there's still hope for challenges. But I still think that once we move over to Europe, you'll start to see Red Bull's lead not evaporate, but reduce a little bit. We're going to Miami in 2 weeks. I think it's going to be hot. That means tire management is going to be of the utmost importance there. Yeah. So let me ask you, who are the top 3 drivers now, in your opinion, with tire management?
No, with tire management, it's very you can't take it away from Max. He's the reigning world champion. Very good at managing pace and controlling tires. Lewis is also a good in that aspect. Managing tires is one of his specialties.
What about Norris?
Managing tires. I think Norris is still learning the craft in terms of tire management. But I think you still give it to the old warhorse himself, Alonso.
And I would say that Alonso may not have as much tire management as those two, but he doesn't care. He's aggressive. Right now, Alonso
knows how to manage tires, but it depends on the strategy you push into the when you're pushing the car, you are not managing anything.
So you're right, and I was going to correct myself. You're right about that. And what we're seeing from Alonso, though, is some of the most aggressive but fair racing you can see. He's very aggressive. He's pushing, but he's not hitting people. He used to do that back in the day with him and Lewis Hamilton. But now he's mature.
When Max used to crash into everybody when he
Max almost killed people his first year. And that's why a lot of people don't like Max. And I always tell people, Max seems cool and calm now. Is because he doesn't have a challenger. It's going to be it would be interesting to see what would happen if Alonso was
pushing into the wall. Now he will start crashing and hitting.
That's where he shows his true personality, which is why it would be interesting to see if Alonso was on the team with him. But I don't think Red Bull will never challenge him until it's his time to go. When they bring up that young boy, the Austrian kid. But there's a young kid, blonde kid. I forgot his name now. But yeah, this is good. Yeah. So thank you very much, Bearden, for taking time. I know you have a busy schedule, so we'll be back for Miami. Any last thoughts before we leave about the Miami Grand Prix, if you know anything or what you expect to see? I don't think much is going to change, but you can end us off. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game next couple of weekends. Miami is a very interesting track. And the USGP is always one of the interesting races, and the Americans always.
From what I understand, very long straights and simple curves and simple turns.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if some of the teams are going to come up with upgrades into Miami, but let's see how it goes. But definitely we know that in the last couple of races in Miami, the Red Bull has been dominating.
I think they're saving the upgrades for Europe. Yeah, I think so. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. So hopefully we'll see each other before, because there's a lot of Champions Leagues going on. But we'll all see each other again in Miami.
Yeah.
Good day. Have a good day. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you, James.